Welcome to the Envelope's Emmy Contender Series. I'm Lorraine Ollie. Today we're talking with Brendan Fraser, who plays James Fletcher Chase on the TV series Trust. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, too.
Did I say your last name right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Fraser. People have
Fraser.
been asking me about this name pronunciation thing. It's a Canadian thing. Don't know how to say ow or o for years. So it's Fraser, like the thing you stand close to get a close shave.
Got it. Okay.
Razor.
All right. We had to go over this right before the cameras went on, so I'm just double checking. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. And I just have to say, I have been watching Trust, the FX series, in which you have a phenomenal part, in which you wear this cowboy hat often. That I don't know if that can be.
This one?
Yes.
It's actually easier to talk about the show if I put it on.
Okay. Excellent.
It's such a gimmick, but I did it anyway.
This
Oh,
is the
much better.
silhouette you see in the show, though. It's such a fabulous. So, just to give a little bit of background on the show, Trust is centered around the '73 kidnapping of J. Paul Getty III, grandson of the potentially at that time the richest man in the
Right.
world, right? And you play the fixer, who's Chase. And if you just want to get into his
Sure.
character.
Well, I'm not sure if he's a fixer so much as a repairman.
Ah.
In a way. Handyman, repairman. I'm not sure he fixes everything, but he is loyal to Getty. I don't know if he agrees with him personally. He admires him professionally. Fletcher Chase there was a James Fletcher Chase. There's not a lot known about him. He was CIA. Maybe his history was redacted, so I didn't have a lot to read about. I did hear from Danny Boyle, who directed this, 3 episodes of it, and executive produced it, and from Simon Beaufoy, screenwriter, that they read that Chase was really impressed Getty because he was a Texan, but they didn't know too much about him apart from maybe he wasn't that good at being in the CIA, so he went to work for the richest man in the world.
Right.
After that. But he's a composite character, ultimately. And he allows the story to progress from a standpoint of it not being so much as a biopic, the trappings of it being historically accurate to what the Getty family experience was, according to all of the novels, or rather biographies. It's liberated from that by this character who has the ability to act as a liaison to the audience. He speaks directly to them occasionally.
That's right. He breaks right.
Almost like soliloquies and asides were the mainstay of dramatic literature all the way back to Shakespeare. Spoke to you directly. Hi, folks. And sometimes it was that character who was necessary to progress the dramatic plot because you needed someone who was in the know to explain what's going on in the story and speak directly to its audience to let them know that someone here might think that this is bonkers mad news anyways, and you're not the only one. And it's a wild tale.
It is a crazy tale. I mean, the grandson lives in Italy, and he is at the time, 14, 15, 16, he gets
He
kidnapped.
was 16. He was taken at, I think, at age 16. He might turn 17 shortly thereafter, but
Right,
he's a teenager.
right.
He's a kid. He got in over his head. He made some mistakes. He racked up bills with the wrong people. Couldn't pay them. He had the stigma of being a Getty, considered grandson of the richest man in the world. You got to be good for it. He may have involved himself in a way with some small-time criminals that sold him on to the bigger, scarier ones who didn't play around.
Right, right.
And regardless of the circumstances, he was taken hostage, and there were astronomical amounts of money that were asked of the most stubborn, curmudgeonly, miserly King Midas type individual who made his fortune from oil, owned oceans of cash, and delighted in being correct, always being the victor.
And he's played by Donald
and
Sutherland.
that's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Trump, excuse me. Oh, God, did I just say that? Apologies to Mr. Sutherland.
That's
Los
phenomenal.
Angeles time. Yeah, this is what you heard me say.
Happened here.
It's live.
That's great.
What was I talking about?
You're talking about Getty.
Water, right?
Being a rich man who always
Rich
needed
man
to
who
be
owns
right,
a lot of everything, always has to be right.
but played by Donald Sutherland.
Played by Donald Sutherland, who is playing a billionaire.
with a payphone in his house because he is so cheap. He doesn't want people.
To shortchange him.
Right.
He washed his own socks because, I mean, let's face it, honestly, do we really like paying $5 to get our socks washed in the hotel? No. He does them in the sink, like me. But it's certainly an indication of the mindset that he had for I earned it, I'm keeping it, I'm not giving it away. And he was, in his way, cursed because it was never enough for him that he owned all of the money in the world.
Right. The
It was
film.
never enough.
Yeah.
So he wanted to keep, and he almost punished his sons in a really cruel way by making them prove themselves to him constantly, giving them jobs where they were with the family business, but were in over their head and they didn't want to do it, but he would sabotage them. And it ended poorly, sadly, for many of them. When I read the screenplay,
Yeah, I was going to say, did you know much about the story when you had seen the screenplay?
I knew that the name Getty came from oil. I knew that there are 2 museums in Los Angeles that are, one's very good, the other one is well built. You know, I knew that there's a lot of philanthropic entities that come from that. That's all I knew, really. And I heard that there was a kidnapping, which is, I mean, a good springboard to go into the project not knowing anything, so you don't have to bring any preconceived ideas to it.
Right. It's interesting because your character, Chase, as you were saying, he kind of serves as kind of this bridge, is explaining also this era to the audience, because there's this, we're talking like the early 70s, really tumultuous time, some of it much like now. And, he serves as this bridge of kind of explaining this story is crazy and chaotic, and really so is this time.
Yes.
When you kind of went in to do this, did you see it as a story about also that era and kind of that when everything was kind of chaotic?
Chase seems to be almost a connoisseur of time. He speaks about it in terms of his favorite years. What are the great ones? He thinks about the greatest hits of events that have happened. And he also, I noticed early on the first time I met Danny in person, that he had almost like a prescient knowledge of, he says that, 1973, there's really nothing much you can say about it as being remarkable, and words to that effect. Yeah. It's too old for the swinging 60s. It's too young for disco. It's just 1973, and there's archival footage of events that are happening then, but it's not much. But a kid went missing in that year, and that's what you're going to see as this story unfolds. So how did he know that, from a narrative standpoint, that something was going to happen in the future? I asked Danny, and I remarked, is it like he has a sort of time traveler's ability? And Danny went, oh, that's good. I could use, I'm going to take that to Simon. Yeah, I'm doing a bad Danny right now. I'll try again. Oh, that's good. And he did. He went to Simon, and it liberated the story for him, both of them, because it reminded everyone that this is an entertainment at the end of the day. We're dramatizing real and imagined events, and we're allowed to do that because we're not depicting reality necessarily, and in order to drive the point home, they ascribed the virtues of being a narrator of sorts to Chase, who could bring people up to speed, speak directly to a camera, which is something we're so accustomed to in our cultural viewing habits, watching newscasters and anyone else selling information or goods and services to you. They talk
and on
right to you.
our phones as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're like, right.
And what that does is it also sort of hints at a break in convention, which is always exciting when, to me at least, the rule book about how to tell a story gets chucked out the window, and suddenly the character who you're watching is talking directly to you.
Right.
So what I was going to tell you was, come see Trust. Check out episode 2.
Excellent episode. So, you've tended to pick, especially recently, really idiosyncratic characters, and I'm so glad. I think I know. You with the hat on.
This is my thinking cap. I can't talk about this show properly, let alone play the character without the Stetson.
If that hat comes off, it's done, right?
Look,
I mean, we can't.
just for the record, I do have hair, all right? Warm in here.
It is warm in here.
It's my hair. I paid the relocation fees. There, I said it. Oh, what were we talking about? Trump, right. Sorry.
Yes, Trump. Let's go back to Trump, because everything ends up there, doesn't it?
If you watch
we were talking about idiosyncratic, eccentric characters, so.
Well, look, the script said only the unbelievable parts of this story are true.
Wow. That's excellent.
And that was on the cover page. I hung on to that, and it made a lot of sense going forward creatively, because we can identify with the notions of what we want and what we have in life, and we've heard time and again that money will not buy you happiness. And Michael Esper's character, who plays Big Paul, his John Paul Getty Sr.'s son, I'm misquoting him, makes the point so beautifully when he asks, if you have everything, what do you value? And that's the theme from his standpoint. To me, I think this is about fathers and sons. When I watch Donald and Michael, I think this is about the rebellion of youth. When I watch the story unfold, and I think when I see Hillary's work, that it's been said that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, but I just think, do not annoy someone's mother. They will come for you, and it will leave a mark that you won't like.
Hilary Swank, who plays his mother, right?
Yes.
Who plays the kidnap, right? I was going to ask you, because you have done so much. Let's just start right there.
Varied.
A lot. So where's there, and like I was saying, the characters you have played have really, been, you've given yourself a good wide playing field. So were you concerned when you started out, Encino Man, Mummy, Tarzan, that you were gonna get like typecast in certain types of roles? Did you consciously start thinking, I need to break out and make sure that I have a wide area to play in?
I remember thinking, I made this film called School Ties. It's about how we want to belong, but the lengths that we'll go to disguise who we are essentially. And very serious, thought-provoking drama that still holds up 25 years later. And I didn't want to do Encino Man about a thought-out caveman who wrestles with plants. Well, at least that's what got me the job in the audition. But then a point was made that, kid, diversity is important. I mean, there's a reason why there's a smiley mask and a frowny mask, tragedy, comedy, range. I always wanted to stretch and grow. You're always going to find some common thread in an actor's performance through their career, I believe. But in recent years, because the industry has changed so much from formats to formats, from analog to digital in its way that's almost like horse and cart to combustion engine, and we're just not going back, that we need to get with the wave or you'll be crushed by it. And so that means that if we're going to work in a long-form dramatic format, it makes sense to do it streaming on all of the multiple platforms, because we're able to tell stories over many chapters rather than inside the parameters of 120 minutes or so. I mean,
right.
And they each have the pros and cons. But what's essential is finding something that we care about. And that's always been my prime directive. Whether I've been successful about that or not, I know that it works best, and I feel like I'm enjoying this, I'm comfortable when I think, don't tell anybody, but I would do this if they were paying me or not. I mean, I love my job so much. I'm the luckiest guy I know. Best kept secret kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And Trust gave me the opportunity to return to those early days of the diverse choices that were being made or were on offer in all the way, the early 90s all the way into, I don't know, call it the last 10 years or so.
Right, right. I mean, and television is in such a great place, and I think even more so than film right now, where just creatively, the people are taking so many more risks. And it's not always turning out in a great way. Sure, there's plenty of duds out there, but there's some great, Trust is a really good example. But
I gotta say, and it's not because I'm supposed to, but FX really supports those filmmakers and creatives who make broad choices, and they effectively stay out of their way. Let them do their job and give them the tools and frankly the funding to bring a vision and do it with courage. If you look at like Atlanta, if you look at all the other shows that they've been doing, it's really it's the vanguard, in my view, right now of contenders for the zillions of viewers' attention, whether it's on basic cable or through other formats. What's important is that you get everyone's attention without having to scream and jump and bounce up and down and say, look at me, but have them really want to, have them invest what they, the time that they put in and get out what they invest.
right.
And in terms of the quality that they hope to receive from what they're watching.
Right. And I think grabbing that attention at this point too, that just, I think it's becoming more and more difficult because there's just collective ADD. There's so much stuff, and not just programmed series that are good, but people screaming at you all the time, whether it's
look at me.
Exactly right. So it's almost like you have to be better and better and better.
Right. The term binge watching would have been kind of absurd to us. What?
Right.
5-10 years ago?
Yeah.
7 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's the par for the course. We have that kind of like I don't know if it's attention deficit or if it's just like a Pavlovian response. More. I like it. Give me one more. Oh no, it's going to be on in 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8. We're watching another episode because it told me to. I don't know who does that.
Yeah. And just kind of getting into your history, when you were coming up, just even as a kid, did you think you wanted to do this? Did you think not sit here and talk to me, but act?
I do want to talk to you.
I talk to you too, but
I think I hadn't figured out what I wanted to do, and if I wanted to do something, I kind of wanted to do a little bit of everything, but not in a jack of all trades way. But I suppose I learned early on that as an actor, you can step outside yourself, try on another vocation for a little while, fake your way through it, and then go on to the next one. And when I was a young man, I was a teenager, I loved that acting brought groups together. The like-minded need to put a show on is essential. I went through college in Seattle for 4 years of conservatory training in very serious, like black turtleneck serious kind of. Oh yeah, gonna get my degree in acting. You see, and I came to Los Angeles in the early 90s, and I even brought my degree with me in case I needed to show it to anybody. No one asked me for it.
oh my God.
And I realized that this job is about storytelling because you must. It's about doing something for the first and last time you ever will, because you might not be lucky enough to be asked to do it again.
Right.
And that's something, a notion that I return to. I tell myself all the time. Each time that I try something new, I happen to believe it's important to try new directions, because you grow, you stretch. I'm always learning new things, and I, with good graces, I hope to continue to.
Okay, we have a lightning round of questions, but we have some technical difficulties here on the iPad. I know some of them, but they are not here. Google Docs. Okay, there we go. We're a professional organization around here. Here we go. Okay, so a fan on Twitter asks if you have any plans on directing again in the future.
Again, I'm not sure when I directed.
Apparently she feels that you have. So
Executive
can
produced?
you go back in time and do it?
I don't know if I want to work that hard. I'm very lazy.
Okay. All right.
There are proper directors. Danny Boyle is a world-class, living inside arguably the top 10, 12 of our most prominent filmmakers right now. And he did trust. Of course I want to be a part of that. I don't have any pretensions of showing up to a
Taking
set.
over for him.
Yeah, Danny, I got this. Although I am precocious enough that maybe like 1 in 7 ideas that come out of my butterfly bubble of a brain might be helpful.
Right.
And if there's a very good director, such as Danny, they're constantly questioning. And every now and then, they'll have that butterfly net and they'll catch the good one. And it could work.
Yeah.
It might seem absurd as you say it out loud, like, oh, Fletcher Chase is a time traveler. He probably went, oh, word that I can't say on live streaming interweb TV net movie stuff. What have I done? He thinks he's a spaceman. Hang on. Now we're not beholden to make a biography. This can liberate us. It can let the story be an entertainment. It can work out. He's a collaborator.
Right.
The thing about Danny and that I loved so much is that a good idea comes from where it comes from, and he hears everything. He's a master communicator.
Yeah.
Listens with his pores. Has time for everyone, and he instantly gives credit right when it's due, whether it is from a performance from someone who's lit his set in an interesting way. He is. He's not guarded. It's not important for him to feel territorial at all about who originated that idea.
It's unusual.
It is,
Yeah.
and it inspires such trust
Right.
in the process
Yeah.
that everyone feels like we all matter, we all belong, we're all in this together. That's the kind of place that I felt I was welcomed in. That was the trust that was put into me to be in
Right.
that environment, which is something that I can only hope to go forward with, is why I do this job
Right.
when I'm lucky enough to be asked to come and do it.
Okay, let's see. We have time for. Okay, these are our lightning round questions. What was.
It's going to rain, strike me with
This
lightning.
is a lightning round. If you get it wrong, you get struck with lightning. I'm sorry. That's just the way it works around here.
I have to put my smart guy glasses on for this one. All right.
All right, here it goes. What was the last show you binge watched?
That was first season of Game of Thrones.
Yes. Okay.
You're wrong. Wait, it wasn't Game of Thrones. You're right, I mean. It wasn't. It was House of Cards.
Is the lightning gonna? Is that gonna happen now? Okay.
But they're both great shows. Oh, man! Jeepers, he wasn't
What
kidding.
just happened? Okay. If you could go back and be on
He
any.
did a joke. That's what just happened. You got to give credit right when it's due. There you go, man.
If
See, this DP is like on the job. See, the light here is very bright because this is Los Angeles Times, and you have ways of making me talk. So
We do. We do. That's what we do here. Okay. If you could go back and be on any TV show ever, what would it be?
Oh, I was gonna say Miami Vice.
Really?
Yeah,
Is it the jackets? Is it?
that and the boats, and just being so awesome in the '80s. Yeah.
Okay. All right. A lot of people watch TV to unwind. What do you do to unwind?
Archery.
Really?
Yes, really. Because every time you aim, you're going to miss. And if you don't think about it, you surprise yourself, and the arrow goes exactly where you intended to, but you didn't overthink it. It's different every time you release that string with just the gesture of like dropping a bag of coins. And I like the notion that once you let something go, you can't get it back. You better be careful. You better mean it. And there's an element of risk to it. So have respect for physics and the environment around you. It takes me out of my head.
Yeah.
And puts me back in my head in a different way. I find that helpful to me. And some days I could not hit the broadside of a barn with a rusty shovel. Like, and some days
That works with that hat on, by the way.
You. Some days I just can't miss.
Oh.
Robin Hooding them one after the other. Thwack, thwack, thwack. I've lost more arrows that way.
All right, I have one more for you. What do you know now that you wish you knew on your first acting job?
Don't take this too seriously. And try to remember everyone's name if you can. Karen.
That's great, Bob. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Bob, for being here.
It's been a pleasure, Karen.
And thank you. And if you would like to hear more of our envelope series, go to latimes.com.